everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I have a little book haul for you guys. I wasn't supposed to have a book haul. I already had a video in 2024 that said my last book haul 2024, which technically is still true because you aren't seeing this video until 2025, but I did purchase these books in 2024. So did I lie? Did I not lie? It's up to you guys to decide, but I do have a bit of a book haul from when I went on vacation in France. I didn't purchase every book. Some of the books were given to me, or I picked them up from my grandmother's house, because I did actually intend to not really buy that much when I went to France. To be honest, I really did have that intention because I have all the Zola collections. I have enough Jules Verne for now. I had already made a big French book haul over the summer when I was in France for the Olympics. So I didn't really need to add on. My TBR pile, especially for my French language books, is already fairly significantly large. So there really wasn't any need for me to buy any more books. So I just got a few things here and there. But, you know, it is what it is. It's still a book haul. Let's start with what I got, because I did come... Well, I did come with the intention of buying these books. So when I first went to France, I said, I'm not going to have a big book haul. I'm just going to pick up a few things. So the first thing was the continuation of the Detective Conan manga in its French edition. This is volume 104. This is the only manga that I still read in French because I started reading it in French before I knew Japanese, and I didn't want to make the switch in the middle of the series. So this is the only series that I still read in French, and so I got the latest volume. So, you know, stuff like that, that's fine for book haul, right? It's a continuation of something I know I'm going to read. So there's no judging here. So along the same lines, I always like to get a new Amélie Nothomb book. I've read a lot of her books. I've read over like 25 of her books, I believe now. She publishes one every year. I've actually read an interview with her where she said she's already written 100 books. So she's a very prolific person, but they do publish just one a year. So I try and catch up as much as possible and read one book every year myself. So this time I got Le Crime du Comte Neuville. And the thing about her books is that they never have any blurbs. Basically, either you've already read Nothomb and you know what she's like and you're a big fan of her and you read her so you don't need to know the blurb, or you're not interested in her, I guess. I guess that's what the publishers think. So I have no idea what this is about, and that's just how it is with Nothomb. I just pick her up. I want to read a new one. There we go. This is the one I went for because I knew I didn't have this one yet. So I got that. And then I decided to also pick up a Sandrine Collette. So I've read 2 Sandrine Collette books so far. I've enjoyed her so far. So I wanted to pick up a third one. And this time I decided to get Six Fourmis Blanches, or the 6 White Ants. And all of her books are pretty much like sort of realistic situations, but taken to a very exaggerated point, where they almost become not fantastical, but there is something whimsical about them. And usually they're talking about some sort of like human condition in terms of like when humans have to go through something difficult, what emotions are they going through when they encounter that. So that's kind of like her style of writing, and so I decided to pick this one up. She is kind of considered a thriller writer, but so far I haven't really agreed with that. But maybe with this book I'll see a little bit more where that thriller thing comes in. I also decided to, well, I didn't decide. I knew when I went back to France that I was going to pick up a few more plays. The first one is the fact that, over the summer I had bought Le Mariage de Figaro. I had bought the Marriage of Figaro, and then when I was about to read it, the introduction to the book told me that there's 3 plays sort of connected. I was like, crap, okay, well, I'll buy the other 2 plays. Unfortunately, the other one play, the Barber of Seville, Le Barbier de Séville, is very famous, right? Very famous. We all know it because of the opera, very, very famous. So that is very often in its own edition. But the third play, La Mère coupable, is not the popular one. It's not very popular. My mother, who's read pretty much all the plays, she didn't know about it. So I had to get a book that had all 3 in the same edition. So yes, I already own the Mariage de Figaro. Technically, I'm buying it again, but this time I have an edition with all 3 plays. And I don't really like this edition, to be honest. The text is quite small. It's all smushed together. And it doesn't give the same satisfaction as like reading one play and then basically having finished the book. But it is what it is. I am curious to see what the connection is between all these 3 plays. So again, this is Le Barbier de Séville, The Barber of Seville, Le Mariage de Figaro, The Marriage of Figaro, and La Mère coupable, The Guilty Mother, all by Beaumarchais. So I got that. And then I decided on one more play, because this one, the blurb, or not the blurb, but it's an excerpt from the play, sounded so good. And that play is called Le Roi Se Meurt by Eugène Ionesco. So I didn't know about this play at all. But the blurb, or basically the excerpt that's given on the back, is Marguerite going towards the king. Sire, I have something to tell you. Marie says, no, be quiet. Marguerite says, no, you be quiet. And then Marie go to the king says, nothing she's about to say is true. And the king says, what do you mean you have to tell me something? What is not true? Marie, why are you putting up such a sad face? What's going on? And Marguerite says to the king, Sire, I have to announce to you that you are going to die. And the doctor says, yes, Majesty, unfortunately. So there we go. That was the blurb, which sounded excellent. So I picked up that. Now, let's see what to say next. Not these. Okay, this was a so those were the ones I was expecting to purchase. Then the rest was kind of just like things I found, or I mean, some still bought, but like still found. So my mother and I discovered that there's a antique books and used books market in Paris. I had never gone to it. And it happens every weekend on Saturdays and Sundays. It's in the Parc Brassens, so the Parc Brassens, and under what are called les halles, which is basically back in the day, like near parks and near like stations, you have les halles, which are like basically covered alleyways, and there you have a bunch of merchants selling many things. And that has now been transformed into an outdoor book market on the weekend. So we went there, and first we found 3 Balzac books in these old editions. I wasn't planning on really buying really any French classics, because like I said, I already have so many Zola, and I already have so many Jules Verne, and I have other classics that I need to read since I own them. But they are very inexpensive, and it's always good to have a French classic on hand. And I'm not sure how much Balzac I have on my shelves. I think I've already read what I own. So we did decide to buy a few more. So I got Le Cousin Pons, and there are no blurbs on these, so I can't tell you what they're about. It's Balzac. It's a famous French classic. It's gonna be good. So that's just what it is. I can't tell you what it's about. But Le Cousin Pons, Cousin Pons. Then I got the very famous, one of his most famous works, La Cousine Bette, or Cousin Bette. And then I got Le Curé de Tours, so the priest of Tours. And then there's two, so it seems there's 2 stories. There's Le Curé de Tours, and there's also Pierrette. So I don't know anything about these. Even the very famous La Cousine Bette, like I know the title, it's so famous. I think it's probably one, if not one of, it is his most famous works, other than Le Père Goriot, which is the old man Goriot, but like, Eugénie Grandet is also the other famous one. But yeah, the 3 famous Balzacs. It's gonna be good. I'm sure it's gonna be good. So I got that, and then I found one book that was really exciting, because the thing is, like, all of the vendors under Les Halles, every kind of vendor has their own specialty. And so some do comics, some do cookbooks, some do like really ancient books, like the really famous, like leather bound, printed in the late 1800s, the early 1900s, like really expensive books, stuff like that. Every sort of vendor has its own specialty, and there was one vendor who was selling books, history books basically. And I found this, and I immediately picked it up, and it's called Le Japon et ses morts, so Japan and it's dead. Ces voix qui nous viennent de la mer, so their voices who come to us from the ocean. And basically what this is, it is a anthology, a group of letters basically written by Japanese soldiers in China and in the Pacific, etc., etc. So it's just letters that they wrote. And I thought that sounded really, really fantastic, because I am definitely, I've had a huge interest in the history of Japan during the war. And I just love, you can see this book's really old actually. I looked it up online, and it doesn't seem like there's a modern reprint of this book. So it's either you buy this or you don't have it at all. But I really love the formatting, the font, the large font of these old books. They're just really, really fantastic. So yeah, it's just a bunch of letters from Japanese soldiers during the war. So I'm really excited to have found this. It was a really, really exciting find. So very excited about that. So those are the books that I got from the, what am I trying to say? From the, I've been talking about it, from the book market. Thank you. The book market. So then the rest of this were kind of just unexpected books that I got. This one is way out of my comfort zone. I am going to try. But this is Une saison en enfer, which is a season in hell, by Rimbaud. This is a book of poetry. I don't read poetry. I have two favorite poems, but I don't read poetry. But I bought this because my mother and I were walking to the Jardin de Luxembourg, so the Luxembourg Gardens, from about the general area of Saint-Sulpice, where the big church of Saint-Sulpice is, which is gorgeous. You should definitely go in. But on the route to the Gardens of Luxembourg from Saint-Sulpice, there's a building with this really long flat wall. And on that wall was one of Rimbaud's works. And in front of that wall was this man who was out loud dictating the work of Rimbaud. He was reading the poem and he was performing it. Not for like money or anything like that. He might have been a little crazy, but I don't know. He could be. He was really well dressed. So I think he's just a really big fan of Rimbaud. I don't know. Or maybe he's a performer, or maybe he's a poet. I have no idea. But he made it sound really nice, really good. And as I was reading the words, as this man was reading the poem out loud, I was like, that sounds really nice. Maybe I should try that. So I decided to pick up this little book of his works. From what I can tell, other than the font is tiny, Rimbaud never really published all of his works in like one book. This is kind of like all there really is. But they have a page showing his notes, and it almost looks like my fingernail, actually. I don't know if you can tell. Can you tell? So I'm really upset. I just painted my nails last night, and then I hit my table with my nail and happened to break. I have short nails, like I have nubs, and I still managed to break a nail and chip off the nail polish. I'm very annoyed. I'm very annoyed. But in any case, yeah, I'm hesitant but curious, and I'm eager at the same time to see how I react to actually sitting down and reading poetry, which is something I've never really done. But I've been reacting really well to theater, so I thought I would try this and see what happens. Then my mother and I went to go see a really great temporary exposition at the Musée Guimet, I believe, yes, Musée Guimet, which is a museum that focuses on Asia. It is near Trocadero, which is Trocadero is the sort of little place where you look down. You can look down on the Eiffel Tower and it expands right in front of you. So if you walk away from the Eiffel Tower, down from Trocadero, there's the Musée Guimet. And we went there because currently, as I'm filming this video, they're doing an exposition about the Tang dynasty. Sculptures and objects from the Tang dynasty, which was, I think, what it was between the year 600 and 900. And absolutely fascinating, really beautiful. Like the condition of the sculptures and the art and everything they were able to find was absolutely gorgeous. So really highly recommend the museum. We also got to see the more permanent collection about like Chinese jewelry and gold, and that was absolutely beautiful. So really great museum. And I ended up buying 2 books from the gift shop. Now I did go there to see an expo on China, but I ended up buying this book about Japan because this is the Journaux des dames de cour au Japon ancien, so the journals of ladies of the court in ancient Japan. So basically, there are a few very famous diaries written by written by court women in Japan of old times. Because at the time, women didn't write or do anything like that. So Murasaki Shikibu, the author of the Tale of Genji, she has her book and she has her diary in this. But there are a few other court women who have diaries in Japan, and they're very, very famous. I have already read one of them. And initially, I was planning on buying the others. I was planning to read all of the journals finally. But if I were to read them in English, I would have to buy 1 volume from every single journal. So when I found this, which has 3 journals in just 1 volume for way cheaper a price, I decided to just go ahead and get this instead of getting them in English. So this has the journal of Murasaki Shikibu, and then it has 2 other women from from the 11th century. So very excited about this. This is, again, nonfiction, but this was a book I definitely already had planned in my head to buy at some point, so I just picked it up. This book, however, I had no plans, and it is thick. It is thick. So this is a just short of 1,200 pages, and that is Le Roman de la Cité Interdite by the Japanese author Asada Jiro. And this is a Japanese author, but he is writing historical fiction about the Forbidden City in China. So it is historical fiction by a Japanese person about China. But this sounds super, super fascinating. It takes place in year 12 of the Chinese dynasty of the Qing. And it just talks about what's going on. And it sounds riveting, like when you just have like a really, really fascinating story in a fascinating time period with fascinating characters. Like this is like those dramas, those epics where you just get sucked in, and I love these kind of books, so I'm very excited to read this. So I decided to pick this up even though it's huge. Now the rest of what I got are books that I didn't buy. 2 books I got from my grandmother's shelves because she can no longer read physically, and then 1 book is a book that my mom had already read, and then she passed it along to me. So let's start with that one. That one is Le Lecteur de Cadavres by Antonio Garrido. So this is a Spanish author who has also written about China. So there's a little bit of a theme in my books right now. But this is basically a polar. It's a thriller. It's a thriller basically that takes place in China in the 13th century, where basically a lot of assassinations have been happening, and our main character, who is a forensic scientist or forensic doctor, basically is asked to sort of help. So it's a historical fiction thriller, which sounds pretty fun, right? By a Spanish author. But this had quite a bit of popularity in France. And I don't know, it's kind of different from what I usually read, so I wanted to try this out. So I got this in France. So that's the book that my mom gave me. And the books I got from the shelves at my grandmother's house. This is actually my grandmother's book. I know this. But this is Quatre générations sous un même Quatre générations sous un même toit. So Four Generations Under the Same Roof. This is actually a very famous Chinese classic by Lao She. It's very long. It's 3 volumes. But it's just a book that I've always wanted to read, and it's been on the, I've seen it so many times, and I just been meaning to pick it up just every single time. So I finally decided to steal these and put them on my own bookshelf. So I'm excited to have that. And then the final book that I decided to steal was L'été, the summer, by Albert Camus. This is just one of these €2 folio type books, which I quite love because often it's just like short stories they wrote, or little essays they wrote, or little novellas they wrote. And so it's a really good way to get a taste of different authors before you read them. I haven't read Camus since I read The Stranger, and that was way back in college. That was a long time ago. And I haven't read him since. So I've been meaning to get back and read one of his other works. In fact, I'd actually like to reread The Stranger because I remember nothing about that book other than I pretty much enjoyed it. But I have my hands on this one. We'll start with this one. So yeah, those are all the books that I picked up while I was in France. I'm excited to see which ones I get to this year. There's a lot of experimentation happening, I think, so it'll be fun to see how I react. But I think it's a good book haul. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.